I often dream of kissing, hugging, and lifting up my abstinent male god, going on dates, eloping, and laughing happily, only to find out that all these dreams are being sensed into the male god's brain. He can no longer tolerate it and caught me, warning me fiercely, "If you dare to dream about that nonsense again, I won't be polite." On a bright morning, just as I was stretching and savoring the dream of being in love with the male god from last night, he walked in with a serious face. My mom even cheerfully helped him close the door. I panicked, pulling the blanket over me while looking at the stern yet handsome male god, swallowing nervously. "Venus, I need to ask you something," the male god said, his lips as thin and red as willow leaves. "What's up?" I asked, trying to sound calm, using his nickname. His real name is Nick, my childhood friend who went abroad for college and has just returned recently. As soon as he came back, I went to see him, and to my surprise, he was even more handsome than before. Standing at 6 feet 1 inch with that aloof and arrogant face, he's simply irresistible. As the saying goes, you dream about what you think about during the day, and I almost dreamt of Nick every few days, from dating to getting married, from kissing to eloping, every kind of dream imaginable. So when Nick came to find me, I was extremely flustered. He stared at me, his eyes seemingly covered with a layer of ice, his lips moving as if he wanted to say something but didn't. "Are you still not used to life here? I noticed you have dark circles under your eyes. If you need any help, just let me know." I took the initiative, showing my concern. He took a deep breath and said, "I'm adjusting well. It's just that I keep being forced to dream every night. I suspect these dreams actually come from you." As he said this, he stared intently at my face, searching for clues. I gasped and blushed deeply. "Ha ha, Nick, you're really funny. What are you talking about? How could that be?" "On Monday, you dreamed that I kissed you secretly in the classroom while the teacher was still lecturing. On Wednesday, you dreamed that we were hugging on the slide in the park, kissing while sliding down, and you even wanted to spin around while kissing. Last night, you dreamed that I tackle you in a black suit." Nick's words were like a death sentence to me, and my sense of shame exploded. How could this be happening? I don't know anything," I said, awkwardly writhing in bed, wanting to just disappear. Nick's long eyelashes fluttered, and he turned to leave. As I thought, "It's your dreams. I hope you clear out the yellow trash in your brain and let me sleep well." I was numb. How could this be? Why is it that my dreams are syncing with Nick's brain? 360-degree live broadcast. Right. "Venus, why did Nick suddenly come to find you? Did he fall for you?" "Let me tell you, Nick is amazing. He received some award in Germany. My mom came over, gossiping and hoping I would marry Nick on the spot. I was on the verge of tears." "Mom, stop asking. Nick wants to kill me." "What nonsense are you talking?" Nick left with a smile. "He clearly enjoys himself and must be in love with you." My mom hit me lightly. I didn't believe it. Nick is so mad. How could he be smiling? His mom even said, "He's not interested in women right now, and only wants to focus on his career. There's no way he loves me." My mom gave me a flick on the head. "Speak more politely. Nick likes gentle women. I've already asked around, so you need to be more elegant in the future." Okay, Mom, please prepare breakfast. I'm hungry." I rubbed my stomach. After breakfast, I started my latest dream, playing games. After graduating from college, I was brutally beaten by society. Several bosses I encountered even tried to hit on me, so I angrily moved back home. Of course, not entirely. I started a side gig as a live streamer to make a living by playing games. Today, the viewership was still dismal, probably because I didn't like showing my face. While fighting monsters in the game, I suddenly received a rocket, $1,000. I was stunned. As a new streamer who doesn't show her face, I actually received a rocket. When the rocket came, viewers flocked to my stream, making me a bit nervous. I looked at the generous viewers which was quite distinctive, the 7th year of loving her. "Thank you to this boss. Thank you, 7th year boss. You're so generous." "Boss, kisses." I mimicked other female streamers in thanking. The boss didn't respond to me, but I was still thrilled. $1,000. After ending the stream, I had lunch and then lay down to take a nap. Before sleeping, I patted my temples and warned my brain, "Don't dream about Nick. Don't dream about Nick. Even if you do, let it be positive energy." Positive energy. With positive energy in mind, I fell asleep. This time, I dreamed of Nick again. We were live streaming together, surrounded by a million viewers admiring our fairy tale romance. We wished all single friends to find partners soon and hoped those in relationships will love each other. So positive. Until the stream ended. As soon as the stream ended, Nick and I locked eyes and started quantum entanglement. Oh no. I woke up, my eyes twitching. From outside the door, I heard my mom's excited voice. "Nick, you're here again. Come in quickly. Auntie has made you something delicious." I wanted to die. Nick entered the room. I lay there a bit stiff, pretending to be asleep. Stop pretending, Venus. If you're still asleep, the images in my mind won't disappear, Nick said coldly. Huh, what's up? I'm so sleepy, I mumbled, trying to play it off. Nick looked at me, his cold demeanor turning into helplessness. Venus, this issue must be resolved. He rubbed his eyes, revealing a hint of fatigue. I stopped pretending then, feeling aggrieved, complained, I don't want this either. It's so embarrassing. How did this happen? Nick sighed and pondered. Think carefully if there's any way to stop you from dreaming. If it's realized, I won't dream anymore, I said casually, then realized and awkwardly laughed. That's not what I meant. Nick's starry eyes stared at me, not revealing what he was thinking. I laughed nervously, feeling both anxious and awkward. What am I saying? I'm such a creep. Realize and no more dreams. That might work, Nick suddenly said. I was a bit confused. That's not something that should be realized. Those things in the dreams are too embarrassing. I said it was a joke and hoped he wouldn't take it seriously. Nick stood up and calmly said, over these days, you've kissed me 13 times in your dreams. We've dated 21 times. I proposed to you 30 times. And we've eloped 50 times behind our parents' backs. You especially like me in a black suit. And you love having a wedding in the classroom. Oh, and you even have 3 kids with me, named Spring, Autumn, and Winter. I was so embarrassed I wanted to die. Nick's lips curved slightly. Think about it, and start with whichever one you want to make real. Why didn't I dream about dying? That would be the easiest to achieve. I was paralyzed with embarrassment. Kisses, eloping, marriage, having kids. Nick's words were like a hammer pounding my sense of shame. I was so embarrassed I felt like I could barely breathe. I decided to hide under the blanket, not daring to look at Nick. This isn't convenient to realize. Let's think of another way. You don't want to dream like a tiger but act like a dog when awake. Nick actually laughed. Even this aloof, abstinent male god couldn't help but laugh at my embarrassment. I was mortified. I buried my head in the blanket and timidly said I was willing, but it was too embarrassing. I felt sorry and wanted to just cover myself and die. Nick went silent. I blushed, feeling so suffocated that I had to pull back the blanket to see Nick's cool eyes. He sat on the edge of the bed, looking at me, and lightly clicked his tongue. Can't hold it in anymore. I wanted to cover myself, but Nick was too close, and I could smell his masculine scent. No more covering. Listen to me. Let's resolve this matter, Nick said, pulling the blanket away from me. The day I returned to the country, you visited me, and after going home, you started dreaming. In your dream, we were dating, and behind a pillar in the mall, you suddenly wanted a kiss, Nick said firmly. So, later, we'll go to the mall and kiss to see if it works. I covered my mouth, shocked. Really? Really? If your wish is fulfilled, you probably won't dream about it anymore. Let's give it a try. Nick was completely relaxed, as if this was a routine matter. He didn't stay long, only saying he'd come to find me at 4 in the afternoon and to be ready. After he left, I was still in a daze, and while dazing off, I unconsciously twisted myself into a worm under the blanket. Hee. At 4 in the afternoon, I was all geared up to help Nick solve his dream troubles. I had to sacrifice myself. It's just a little experiment in the supermarket. No big deal. I'll suffer if I have to, but Nick is my childhood friend. For him, I'm willing to sacrifice myself. I put on my strapless dress, high heels, spray perfume, and apply lipstick, then headed out. My mom was shocked to see me dressed like this and hurriedly grabbed my hand, saying, Venus, I saw on the news that many young streamers meet big spenders, and it's easy for young people to go astray. I'm not going to meet a big spender. Could that, the 7th year of loving her big spender, be Nick? I reassured my mom not to worry, saying I was just going to see a friend and would be back soon. Only then did my mom let me go. As soon as I got downstairs, Nick was already there. He was wearing a black suit, and that aloof yet stunning look made me gulp. An abstinent man is so captivating. If only he adjusted his collar a bit more. Nick did adjust it, casually and effortlessly. I nearly had a nosebleed. Nick looked at me with confusion. What's wrong? Nothing. Why are you wearing a suit? How could I admit I was turned on just by him adjusting his collar? Because you dreamed the most about this outfit, so let's fulfill it all at once. Nick's tone was calm, as if it were a normal thing. He took control of the situation with composure. I thought he was really cool and considerate. We quickly set off, and Nick drove his Porsche to the mall. I often come to this mall, and the dream scenes were similar to this place. We found the pillar from the dream, near the supermarket entrance, with people coming and going. I was so embarrassed and asked Nick quietly, do we really have to kiss? Nick looked at me. Kiss. So we kissed. My mind was all flustered, and I wanted to finish quickly to avoid being seen by others. Nick was so charming, and his lips were fragrant. It must be his first kiss. That night, I slept deeply, but once again, I had a dream in the early hours. I still dreamed about Nick. My subconscious had gotten so used to it that I thought, let's see what kind of weird stuff you'll dream about this time. To my surprise, the dream was about me obsessively showing off Nick's mouth, one thing after another. It was like a crazy frenzy. His lips were even swollen from all the kissing. I was dumbfounded. I tried to wake up but couldn't, and Nick was suffering because of it. He couldn't escape. He had to endure my obsession with his mouth. Eventually, my mom woke me up. I opened my eyes with a smile on my face, and my mouth was still puckered as if I was sucking air. Venus, are you crazy? Dreaming about eating durian or something? My mom was really annoyed to see me acting so uncouth. I wiped away the drool, blinked my eyes, and felt numb. Why was this happening? It seemed like it had become even crazier after all that. I must be addicted to the sweet taste of it. Venus, you're so messed up. I'm going out to buy groceries. You're up early for once. You might as well go for a run, my mom said, pinching my cheek before leaving. I lay back down, feeling like crying. My poor dream boyfriend must have had a terrible time with me obsessing over him. I waited for Nick to come and complain, but he never showed up. I started to panic. Did Nick get angry? Before long, my mom came back and said, Venus, I ran into Nick's mom. She said Nick was sleeping with his mouth puckered and his hands flailing around, like he was possessed, just like when you were dreaming. My eyelids twitched. And then, well, he's asleep again now, but his mom is worried. She wants you to go check on him. Hurry up and wash your face before you head over. Me? Why me? I was completely bewildered. She said Nick was calling your name, begging you not to kiss him. She suspects Nick might have feelings for you. It's odd, though. Nick is usually such a stoic guy. Why would he be so passive in a dream? I let out a groan and collapsed onto my bed. I couldn't handle it. I might as well go hang myself in front of Nick's mom. I gathered my thoughts, got dressed, and brought a bag of fruit to Nick's house. It was just him and his mom. His dad was at work. I rang the doorbell, and Nick's mom answered with a big smile. Venus, come in. Make yourself at home. Hi, Afra. I felt my face flush with embarrassment. It should have been Nick who was embarrassed, but I was the one feeling it. Afra, on the other hand, was as warm and welcoming as ever. After inviting me in, she pointed to Nick's bedroom and said, go check on him. Don't be shy. Just act like it's your own home. I nodded, feeling like Afra thought of me as her future daughter-in-law. Entering Nick's bedroom, he was already awake, deep in thought, and hadn't noticed me. His dark circles had worsened. He must not have been sleeping well lately. I gave a dry laugh. Hi. Nick turned to look at me. I'm phased. Venus, it seems like your solution didn't work. He got straight to the point, showing no sign of embarrassment. True to form, he was the epitome of cool. I asked softly, so what should we do? Do you have any ideas? Nick sighed, his brows furrowed in a charming way. He seemed to have a plan but didn't say it outright. I urged him to speak. I didn't want to see him suffer any longer. He finally said, Venus, why don't you sleep with me? If you're right next to me, it should prevent any more weird dreams. What? I stared at him, my mind blank, my face turning red from my ears to my neck. Nick wanted me to sleep with him. His solution was to sleep together, where he could see and touch me, so I wouldn't dream about him anymore. This must be a great solution. But why? I didn't want to think about it too much. My mind was fixated on 3 words. Sleep together. Sleep together. Sleep together. Really? I asked, my voice trembling with heat. Nick nodded calmly. We can try it if you're not willing. I won't force you. Of course, I was willing. I couldn't bear to see Nick suffer. To help him, sleeping together was nothing. True love knows no bounds. Let's give it a try then. I adjusted my hair to hide my nervousness, my heart racing. Nick, seeing my agreement, said he'd book a hotel for the night and told me to get ready. A hotel. I felt my voice take on a slightly suggestive tone. Hotels are inherently a bit ambiguous. Yeah, it's not convenient at home, Nick said with a serious expression, looking every bit the gentleman. I gritted my teeth and agreed. After all, true love knows no bounds, sacrificing myself for the greater good. I bade him farewell with a sense of righteous resolve, and once home, I couldn't hold it in any longer. I burst into laughter, cackling away. My mom threw a slipper at me. Venus, what on earth are you laughing about? Have you lost your mind? I managed to compose myself, humming a tune as I went to look in the mirror. I looked great. My mom, puzzled, asked how Nick was doing. He's fine, full of energy. Oh, and I'm spending the night at a friend's house. My friend had a failed business venture and came back home, crying alone. I need to go comfort her. I made up an excuse. My mom wanted to ask more, but I quickly ran back to my room to avoid a long conversation. Back in my room, I started getting ready meticulously, even dusting off the makeup table I hadn't used in a while. When it got dark, I sneaked out to meet Nick. He arrived quickly, this time not in a black suit but casual wear, yet still impeccably handsome. like a walking hormone dispenser. I turned my gaze away. After all, I was here for the greater good, not to indulge in small pleasures. Tonight, I absolutely couldn't let my mind wander. Nick took me to the hotel. We showered and then lay down on the bed. And then, it got awkward. What were we supposed to do next? I was about to find something to talk about when Nick turned off the lights and said, "Let's go to sleep." I agreed. And then, it was still awkward. Even though it was dark, the awkwardness remained. We could hear each other's breathing, and I felt like I had to do something, or else how would we sleep? But what could I do? As I pondered, Nick suddenly wrapped his arm around me. I was taken aback, finding myself in his embrace. He held me close, letting me rest my head on his shoulder. Although he said nothing, I felt a rush of warmth and my heart raced. I felt like a little lamb, with no will to resist, nor did I want to. Time passed, and Nick seemed to fall asleep. I shifted my head slightly and heard his steady heartbeat, which was reassuring. His scent was pleasant, even a bit sweet. Before I knew it, I fell asleep as well. That night, I dreamed of Nick again, but this time it was from our middle school days. Back then, I had already grown to over 5'3", while Nick was still a kid, about half a head shorter than me. He was always an outsider in middle school, often bullied by his peers. One time, he was cornered after school, and I rushed in to fight off 5 bullies, carrying Nick home, which left Afra astonished. Nick was stunned too, having been carried the whole way. After that, he avoided me as if he feared getting beaten again, but he worried unnecessarily. By the time I entered high school, Nick had grown to over 6 feet, becoming tall and handsome with a disciplined, attractive face that made me swoon. Unfortunately, he went abroad for 7 years. Sigh. I sighed in my dream and slowly woke up. The sun was already up. Nick was still holding me, looking at me with tender eyes. However, when I looked at him, he wore a resigned expression. "What's wrong?" I asked. He pointed at himself. I looked and saw he was disheveled. While I was clinging to him like an octopus, I quickly pulled away, feeling awkward and scrambling around the bed. How did this happen? I didn't dream about kissing or running away or getting married. I covered my face with a pillow, trying to justify myself. "I know, but being carried by you all the way has left me a bit shaken," Nick said, rubbing his arm with a troubled expression. He even sensed up with this dream. "At least it was a good dream," I said. "The dream was fine, but why are you taking advantage of me in your warm, nostalgic dream?" I was at a loss for words. It seemed that after being lonely for so long, I had taken advantage of the first man who came along. Nick dressed and adjusted his collar. This experiment was a success. My idea wasn't wrong. We can take things further. I frowned, my heart racing. Further with sleeping together. Could it mean? No way. I'm not ready for that. I flatly refused. Nick looked puzzled. "I just meant spending 24 hours with me. What do you need to prepare for?" "Huh." I scratched my head. "Was that all?" Nick seemed to read my thoughts, sighed, and shook his head. I changed the subject. "So, just spending 24 hours with you is enough. It's that simple. If I'm around you, and you can see and touch me, you won't have strange dreams." Nick explained his theory. I thought about it and realized he was right. After spending the night together, having me so close, the dreams were indeed much purer. We agreed to spend more time together in daily life. After all, I was unemployed, so I might as well spend all my time at Nick's place. Afra was all smiles, looking at me like I was her future daughter-in-law. And it was true. Being together all the time, I stopped having weird dreams, and Nick felt more at ease. His career also started to pick up. I learned he was researching new energy and planned to start a related company. One day, after work, Nick came home with a stylish white-collar woman carrying a briefcase. She had a strong, professional vibe. I had just finished a live stream and saw Nick pouring tea for her. The woman said, "Nick's home is so cozy. I hope I'm not disturbing you." "No, we'll finalize the deal soon, so it won't take up much of your time," Nick replied, looking every bit the young, successful entrepreneur. I didn't interrupt Nick. It was normal for him to find business partners. I wasn't jealous at all. I was also tired from streaming, so I lay down on Nick's bed to relax and play on my phone. And then, I fell asleep. Once asleep, my dreams were filled with Nick, who was frantically trying to comfort me. "Venus, my dear, I love you so much. Don't be jealous." "Wah, Venus, she's just a business partner. I don't love her at all. I only love you. If there's any falsehood, I'll freeze instantly." "I love you so much. I turned into a werewolf for you. I go mad for you." I laughed in my dream, giggling away, waking up with a start. I Saturday up and saw Nick leaning against the door, staring at me in silence. I couldn't laugh anymore. I shrank back, feeling as guilty as if I'd cheated. "Hey." Nick took a deep breath and patted his head. "Venus, I've become a werewolf because of you, and I've gone crazy because of you." "Ah." I clutched my head and said anxiously, No, stop singing. Please stop." I once again mentally polluted Nick. He came over and said helplessly, "That woman is married now. Don't be jealous or daydream." I perked up with a smile. "I'm not jealous." "So, did you work things out? Are you on your way to success?" "We didn't reach an agreement." She left. "Why?" I was surprised. "Wasn't that white-collar worker happy?" "My mind is full of your dreams. I keep zoning out, and my expression might have been off. So she got angry." Nick explained. "He didn't even need to sleep. Whenever I dreamed, it sinks to his mind." I bit my lip and apologized. He shook his head. "It's fine. At the rate things are going, you'll stop dreaming soon. Today was just an accident." "Yes, aside from today's dream, I hadn't dreamed of Nick for several days. He was right next to me. I didn't need to dream about him. I just couldn't shake the feeling of being a burden to Nick." After going home, I thought long and hard and fell asleep again in a daze. This time, the dream was even more absurd. I dreamed Nick started a company and became a highly admired big boss. He was surrounded by beautiful women, and he enjoyed their company one after another while I sat there alone, crying. The dream felt so real that I woke up crying, my nose all stuffy. Opening my eyes, I found the room dimly lit. It was only 3 a.m. My phone buzzed with a text from Nick. "Venus, go to sleep. I have a meeting early tomorrow." I woken him up again. I typed out a lot of words, feeling distressed and guilty. But in the end, I only sent a simple "okay." I couldn't sleep, so I lay awake, trying to think of a solution. I couldn't keep torturing Nick. The dreams were getting more absurd, and it was making me feel terrible too. The next day, I went to find Nick, but he had already left for a meeting, and I had no idea what kind of meeting it was. Afra said it was an important meeting with government officials. I started to worry, not knowing if Nick had the energy for it. In the afternoon, Nick came back. He walked into the room with a furrowed brow, deep in thought, and didn't even notice me as he headed straight to the bedroom. Afra asked, "How did the meeting go, Nick?" "I fell asleep. I'll wait for the next opportunity. I need to catch up on sleep first." Nick lay down tiredly, still not noticing me. I felt empty and guilty. Afra invited me to dinner, but I declined. Back home, I sat Saturday for a long time, then packed up my things. I told my mom I was going to Los Angeles to find a job in the city where my alma mater is. My mom dropped her chopsticks in shock. "You hate working. Why go back? Let's dreaming is boring. I need to dive into the 996 grind. I want to be a hardworking worker." I joked, telling her not to worry. "And Nick, his mother said that with you around, he's completely different from before. He really likes you," my mom said earnestly. I shook my head. I felt that Nick didn't like me. He was just reluctantly sticking with me. The facts proved that sticking together only solved the temporary problem. My unstable mindset seriously affected Nick. Since sticking together didn't work, I decided to stay away by 1,000 miles, 2,000 miles, to defeat the synchronized dreams with distance. I left, hoping that distance would solve the problem with the dreams. I wanted to tell Nick, but he was always asleep. I left him a message saying I was going to Los Angeles for work, and hoped I wouldn't have dreams anymore. Nick replied in the evening, "Give it a try." A Saturday in the rental apartment, feeling a bit disoriented. Nick really didn't care about me. My sudden departure didn't seem to bother him. That night, I dreamed again. I dreamt of Nick constantly trying to cheer me up, making me so happy that my nose was sore. When I woke up, it was daylight. Nick hadn't sent me any messages. I smiled. He's not sending me a message, and he wasn't assisting with my dreams anymore. Otherwise, he would have messaged me in the middle of the night. Indeed, distance can defeat synchronization. But I smiled and felt terribly sad. Huddled under the covers, not wanting to move. I didn't want to look for a job. My mom had already said she would handle the rental for the 3 shops at home, so I wouldn't starve. But I came out anyway, feeling lost and aimless. After resting for a long time and eating well, I decided to start live streaming. Otherwise, being alone was too lonely. The stream had a decent number of viewers. Perhaps it was because my voice and appearance were not bad, and I was good at gaming. Some wealthy viewers often tipped me, and I could support myself through streaming. Near the end of the stream, the top supporter, 7 years of secret admirer, suddenly appeared and tipped me $10,000. Afterward, he messaged me privately, "You don't seem happy today. What's wrong?" He was a bit special. Most people who message privately are just asking about payment or price, but he could tell I wasn't happy. I replied politely, saying I was in a bad mood but would be happy next time. "Okay," he responded briefly. Every day after that, the top supporter would tip me, usually starting at $10,000. He would occasionally message me to ask how I was doing. He was always polite, neither enthusiastic nor arrogant. I told him I was doing well, always fine. He just said, "Good." 2 months after leaving home, my mom video called me and said Nick was now very busy, running around everywhere, even meeting with government officials. I was glad Nick was finally free from distractions, and his career was taking off. He's busy because he's successful. That's impressive. I praised Nick, eating cherries. My mom responded with a hint of curiosity. Have you and Nick fallen out? If it doesn't work out, maybe find someone else. Are there any handsome guys in Los Angeles? I said we hadn't fallen out. Nick didn't like me. There was nothing to fall out about. My mom didn't believe it, insisting that Nick really liked me. I sighed, knowing that I was the one who troubled Nick with my dreams all along. After I distanced myself, he had taken off. If he likes me, why hasn't he contacted me in 2 months? I asked my mom while continuing to eat cherries. My mom was surprised. He hasn't contacted you at all. Has he sent any messages? No, I said indifferently, though my eyes turned red. The cherries were really sour. My mom fell silent, seeming to believe now that Nick didn't like me. After ending the video call, I finished the cherries, my nose also feeling sore. That night, I dreamed again, this time of Nick. He was successful, standing in front of a floor-to-ceiling window in an office building, hazy and unreachable. There was a charming woman beside him. I was floating in the air, watching him for a long time. The next day, I streamed as usual, forcing myself to stay upbeat. Streaming was the only thing that kept me going, giving me a sense of purpose. The top supporter tipped me again, this time a whole $100,000, bringing in 1 million views. I messaged him first, please don't tip anymore. I've earned plenty. He replied, you seem unhappy again. What's wrong? He noticed my unhappiness again, even though I had been smiling and gaming. How did you figure that out? Do you have a sixth sense? I joked. Just a feeling, he answered, and was silent for a long time, before sending a new message. I'm very lonely. I want to meet you. I was stunned, not knowing how to react. This top supporter, who had tipped me possibly over $1 million, now wanted to meet me. After thinking it over, I told him I could have dinner with him, but wouldn't do anything else. He agreed immediately. That night, I couldn't sleep. I was going to meet the top supporter, and although it was just for dinner, my emotions were complicated. I pulled out my phone, staring at Nick's contact picture, lost in thought. I wanted to talk to him, but he didn't like me. Whether it was kissing, sleeping together, or sticking together every day, it was all his reluctant actions. He only stuck with me to avoid my dreams. Since I came to Los Angeles, the dreams had stopped syncing, and he hadn't even sent a message. I put my phone down, feeling empty. Damn dreams. I didn't want to dream anymore. But I did. I dreamt of Nick sitting alone in his room, staring at his phone, lost in thought. He was surrounded by darkness, with only the light from the phone screen illuminating his dejected face. On that screen was my social media feed. I woke up with a shock. How could I dream such a thing? It was too real. Why was Nick in that state? Overwhelmed with emotions, I reached for my phone, imagining Nick sitting in the dark, lonely, looking at my feed. Intense feelings surged, and I felt heartbroken. I wanted to talk to him. Just as I grabbed my phone, a message arrived. Venus, I can't sleep. It was from Nick. I only glanced at it before he retracted the message as if nothing had happened. I immediately realized that the dream might be real. Nick couldn't sleep. He was sitting in the dark, looking at my feed, waiting for my message. What a fool. I called him on video. He answered, his face looking dejected in the dim light. Still handsome but lacking energy. I looked at him, and he looked at me, speechless. After a while, he said, I sent the wrong message. How have you been lately? This line was so familiar. The top supporter asked me almost every day. I suddenly realized and exclaimed, the top supporter is you. Nick immediately shook his head. It's not me. He answered too quickly, revealing the truth. Who else could it be? I started crying and asked if he was stupid. What was he doing? Nick, I'm willing to face the camera, turned it towards the ceiling, his voice a bit hoarse. You're going to meet the top supporter. Do you want to fall in love? Fall in love? He tipped me over $1 million, and I'm just having dinner with him. What's the big deal? And the top supporter is Nick. You're such an idiot. What's wrong with you? I yelled at him. Nick let me yell for a while before asking, are you still dreaming? Do it. I dream about you every night. You big idiot. I yelled at him. Nick finally faced the camera, his eyes red and filled with hurt. I've been dreaming about you for 7 years. When I went back to my country, I finally stopped dreaming about you, but now you're dreaming about me again. I was stunned and asked him why he had been dreaming about me for 7 years. Since that day in middle school when you carried me back home, I started dreaming about you. I didn't understand why, so I kept avoiding you. When I went to Germany, it got out of hand. I kept dreaming about you. Venus, I always dream about you, Nick said hoarsely, his hair in disarray and his eyes red and swollen. Why didn't you say anything sooner? My voice was a bit hoarse, and my emotions were out of control. Embarrassed, Nick said stubbornly, pressing his lips together. I was furious. Embarrassed? Can you be more embarrassed than me? You're a stoic. Chisel God, and you're such a stubborn mule. Just wait, I'll show you how I'm going to deal with you, I said, and stormed off. I was going to kill him. I booked a flight that night and left at the crack of dawn. When I got home, I tossed my luggage aside and rushed over to Nick's place. Afra, who had just finished dancing in the square, was surprised to see me. Venus, you're finally back. Nick has been in such a bad state these past 2 months. During the day, he forces himself to focus on work, and at night, he often sits alone all night. I felt a pang of sympathy, but was also angry. I stormed into Nick's room. He was sleeping, his messy hair softening the usually sharp features of his face, and he even had a slight smile. Afra saw this and said happily, "It's been a long time since he slept so peacefully. Could it be that he knew you were coming back?" Yeah, he knew. I really wanted to punch him. Afra asked me to keep an eye on Nick while she went to cook. When the door closed, the room was filled with a warm, dim light. I sat her down on the edge of the bed, looking at Nick's face, feeling a mix of anger, joy, and happiness. I was suddenly exhausted. I lay down on the edge of the bed and fell asleep, dreaming again. In my dream, Nick was carrying me to bed, his voice full of affection as he expressed his longing. It made me melt. When I woke up, I lay in bed with the feeling of that dream still lingering, making me feel all tingly. Nick was lying on his side, watching me with a gaze full of tenderness. I looked at him and threw a punch. He covered his face in complaint. "Why did you hit me?" "Just because. I don't like you." I was still angry, and the more I thought about it, the angrier I got. Nick blinked, got out of bed, and went somewhere. I asked him what he was doing, and he told me to wait, wrapped in a blanket. I watched him suspiciously. He took a shower, dried his hair, and put on a black suit. When he appeared again, he looked like a perfect stoic god, with his features, physique, and aura all impeccable. I admit, I was mesmerized again, but I wasn't buying into it. I absolutely wasn't. I told him not to think he could use his looks to fool me. He had been secretly in love with me for 7 years and never said a word, causing me so much trouble. Nick admitted his mistake and then said seriously, "Our issue isn't resolved yet. You'll keep dreaming, and it will continue to affect me." I fell silent, realizing that he was very serious about this matter. He was someone who wanted to achieve great things and couldn't be distracted by me. I got out of bed and said I would return to work in Los Angeles to keep a physical distance. Nick shook his head. "No need. I actually like your dreams. I hope you dream more intensely. Also, to synchronize our dreams better, I suggest we get married so we can share everything." I stared at him, both crying and laughing. I told him that he was dreaming if he thought I agreed to marriage without even having been in a relationship. Nick said he understood and suggested we start dating now and get married after we're ready. "And what about the dreams? Aren't you going to focus on your career?" I still worried about the impact of dreams on him. He casually adjusted his collar, smiling. "Actually, every time you dream, I feel more motivated, but I still hope you can restrain yourself a bit. If you don't restrain yourself, then I will." "Restrain what?" "Restraining the urge to have kids with you. If you dream of us having kids again, I might take it seriously." He didn't want to restrain himself. Nick was a pervert. I dreamt. He enjoyed it, and he had been pretending to be exhausted just to make me feel sorry for him. "And you're a stoic god, huh?" I told him I would definitely restrain myself. I had survived 2 months alone, so surely I could restrain myself in dreams. However, that night, things got out of control. In my dream, Nick and I got married and had kids again. Quantum entanglement couldn't keep up. When I opened my eyes, we were cuddled together. I blushed. What happened to the restraint? How did I break it in one night? I peeked at Nick with guilt. He touched my forehead with his lips, a wicked smile on his face, his voice slow and teasing. "Venus, it looks like we're moving to the final step. You're done for." The story concludes here. Feel free to subscribe to the channel for the latest updates and new novels every day.